Hello, good afternoon to you. Welcome to the Marketplace, the Monday edition. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Riafika. Many thanks for your time today on the Marketplace. Let's start it off with our very fair story. Telecom operators have been asked to start charging their customers the revised communication service tax. This was contained in a letter sent to the telcos last week. In this report, George Rafi details how operators are planning to implement the levy.
We understand the Ghana Revenue Authority's letter was sent to the telcos last Wednesday. This is to notify them that the revised levy has secured the required legal backing. Therefore, they should start charging the tax. It follows the present absence of the revised taxes outlined in the 2019 supplementary budget. It meant that the tax will now be increased from 6% to 9% based on the value of communication services used by the consumer. Sources say for now, the application of the tax would only affect the telcos and not the radio and TV stations, as well as the entire broadcasting industry. This should mean that it will still be applied as per minute call or the interconnectivity charges and other telco services used. We understand the Ghana Revenue Authority will bring on board the entire broadcasting industry in terms of its application after the required stakeholder engagement. Some telcos have told Joy Business that based on this revision, if you buy 1 cedi credit, you get a message that says communication services tax as 9 pesos and the actual credit left as 91 pesos. Some have argued that this will reduce significantly the talk-term value that consumers enjoy based on the price paid. Telecom operators are worried about the impact of these taxes on their operations, arguing that these levies represent about 40% of their earnings and that they are being overtaxed. Based on the data from the supplementary budget, by the end of this year, the communication services tax based on this review should bring in about 524 million Ghana cedis. The communication service tax was introduced in 2018 as an ad valorem tax of 6%. The tax was levied on charges payable by consumers for the use of communication services. Last year, the tax brought in 420 million Ghana cedis, representing a little over 27% jump in what was estimated in the 2017 budget.
Now, government has initiated processes for amendment of the Community Water and Sanitation Agency Act 1998, Act 564, and transform it into a utility service organization. A memo to that effect is already before Cabinet for approval and subsequent submission to Parliament. CWSA initiated the policy reforms in March 2017 to transform the wash subsector and sustain wash services delivery. Chief Executive of CWSA, Engineer Walanyo Siabi, believes this will reposition the agency for the sustainable delivery and management of water supply systems. Prince Apia has more in this report.
Sustainable Development Goal 6 seeks to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation. 11 years away from 2030 deadline, new investments and policy reforms are critical to transform the water, sanitation and health subsector. Chief Executive of the Community Water and Sanitation Agency, Engineer Walanyo Siabi, believes upgrading the agency to a utility service organization is critical to achieving the targets.
One of the expected outcomes of the policy reform is to transform CWSA into a utility service organization capable of efficiently delivering safe, reliable, and affordable water-related sanitation and hygiene services to rural communities and small towns in Ghana. A cabinet memo has been submitted to cabinet seeking policy approval towards the amendment of Community Water and Sanitation Agency Act 1998, Act 564, which will transform CWSA into a utility service organization.
Engineer Siabi says new policies will also help and increase revenue generation from production.
Currently, about 60% of our water production is unaccounted for. Non-revenue water has been a challenge over the years, and bold steps have been taken to address this issue. There have been the supply and installation of 404 bulk meters and 5,750 service water meters nationwide. This has contributed to the reduction of distribution losses from 60% in 2017 to about 42.5% currently. The agency will apply technology to address this problem.
The review conference was under the theme Steps Towards a Utility Service Organization, the Success Story, Challenges and the Way Forward. Meanwhile, the sector ministry has developed a 4-year plan. One of the directors at the ministry, Patrick Boama, read a speech on behalf of sector minister.
In this plan, government intends to provide 300 small towns pipe system, 17,572 boreholes fitted with hand pumps, and 1,228 limited mechanized systems across the country.
Prince Apia reporting.
Live on the marketplace. Now, players in the financial sector would tomorrow converge to deliberate on what is the next or after the Bank of Ghana completes its cleanup exercise. The third in the series of the Financial Services Forum program put together by Joy Business will be on the theme, the Financial Services Cleanup. Now, what? Some distinguished personalities to lead the discussions include Second Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, LC Ado Awati, Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Reverend Daniel Ubami Tete, Marian Bano, Corporate Governor Consultant and Lawyer, and Dr. Richmond Etuahine, Lecturer, Ghana Banking College. Philip Namfuri will be jointly moderating the program tomorrow. He's joining me right here in the studio to tell us what to expect. Now, Philip,
yes, please.
Why this discussion? Of this?
Okay, so Emmanuel, since 2017, August to be specific, we've had a number of developments in the financial sector, starting off with the Bank of Ghana's revocation of UT and Capital Bank's license. Since then, we've had a multiplicity of reforms in the sector, particularly and heavily in the banking sector. We've also seen changes in the Securities and Exchange Commission. We've seen some developments in the insurance sector. We've seen some developments in the pensions arena. Now, banks hold 85% of the assets in the financial sector. By that virtue, they are very important in our system. And even globally, their importance is also unparalleled. Now, we've looked at the banking sector alone. We've looked at the insurance sector alone. We've had different conversations. I want to put all of them together and see what the nexus is between these four in the financial sector. I want us to look at some of the reforms Bank of Ghana has put in place since 2017 in what I termed Bank of Ghana actions and notices. So I put together an infographic of text with timelines of how these things are happening. Let's look at that and let's continue the conversation. Yeah, so clearly that this is in 2017 with the revocation of the license of the two banks. Then we also had the announcement of the minimum capital requirement. Then we had the first notice by Bank of Ghana on men's gold. These things are important because at every point in time, this, in one way or the other, fueled some speculations about the financial sector. When we had this men's gold issue, you know, there was a back and forth about who regulates men's gold and then all that. Then in 2018 also, there were some reforms. So BOG gave the banks some time to meet it. And you can see on there that even in 2018, we had the issues with Unibank and its the appointment of the advisor and administrator, sovereign bank. Like, there were a lot of issues in that year. So all these things have culminated in where we are today. Over 381 institutions have had their licenses revoked. That's just in the banking and specialized deposit-taking institution sector. From the Securities and Exchange Commission area also, we also saw fund managers also on the chopping board. Some had their licenses revoked, suspended, some voluntarily wound up their operations, etc. Now, we need to connect all these dots. And that's why we termed it, now what? So after all this fuss, after all this noise, are we safe? Is the sector back on a strong footing? Are these reforms going to ensure that all is well and good come 5, 10, 15, 20 years in Ghana's financial system?
So who exactly, is it for, this forum? Who should attend?
Everyone. We are getting the top-notch players in the financial system to come and tell us what the plan is. We've had them speak at various places. We've had the governor come speak. We had the Director General come and speak. That's of the SEC. But now we want them to come and tell us, well, after Bank of Ghana had most of the reforms, let's not kid ourselves. After all this, what's going to happen? Are we safe? Is confidence coming back in the system? Can we go back and put our monies in safely and know that beyond these reforms, would our institutions, the Bank of Ghana, the SEC, the NIC, the MPRA, would they stand the test of time? Such that whether it's a change in administration, change in government, there will be nothing, we're not going back.
Exactly.
Can these institutions stand the test of time to ensure that the reforms they brought in will ensure that all is well and good? That's what we want.
So are we going to have some kind of a question and answer sessions to give people the chance to also pose questions?
Fantastic. So after our main guests discuss, we have another panel of other eminent persons also. They also discuss. Then we'll throw it to the forum for people to get in touch, and then, you know, just ask what they feel, because already questions are coming in from people. They want to find out if all is well and good for the financial sector, because this is the heart of the economy. Let's not lie to ourselves. So we have to ensure that this system is right and stands straight.
Right.
Yeah.
So where exactly and what time?
Okay, so it's at the Labadi Beach Hotel. We are starting at 9, but we entreat guests to be seated early. Breakfast will be there also, and also just to allow us to network and to interact. People will be there. All the major players and institutions will be there. So Labadi Beach Hotel, we entreat guests to be there by 8 a.m. and for us to, you know, try, gather, explain issues, and then we'll set the ball rolling from 9. It will be on JoyNews, to be on Joy FM, and then everything will be well and good from there. All
right, many thanks. We wait till tomorrow for more, and it will be an opportunity for you to actually get yourself acquainted with the development within the banking and financial sector, and to see whether indeed the post-sector cleanup has instilled the confidence which is desired. Let's turn on to another stories. Industry has overtaken agriculture since 2011 as the second largest sector in terms of its contribution to GDP. The advent of oil and gas has been largely attributed with the gains, despite many challenges within that sector. This year's Ghana Industrial Summit and Expo by the Association of Ghana Industries will have some discussions centered around technological advancement in industry, energy requirements, infrastructure, and financing as tools to drive growth in the industry. Udilia Ntiama put the spotlight on the founder of AGI and her contribution to Ghana's industrialization drive. Here's more.
She would have been 99 by now. One woman who broke the frontiers and put Ghana on the map. Her contributions to the general economy of Ghana and indeed industries are just unnumbered. She is the creator of, well, the AGI, the Association of Ghanaian Industries. Then she actually chaired the Women's World Banking worldwide when it was set up, well, in the 70s. Today, my lenses are now going to be focusing on what's happened to her in Kulenu Company several years after she went to her grave.
When she studied in London, she found out that during the war, the women preserved lots of food to keep them through the war. And therefore, she came back with the idea that she should do something similar. And that actually even influenced her processing our local foods to keep throughout the year. But then she also felt made in Ghana goods were not as popular as imported goods then. So she went out of her way to mobilize manufacturers to form an association. And it so happened it coincided with the government asking for a committee to be set up to help manufacturers with their problems. So she advertised in the newspaper and got many manufacturers around, and that was the beginning of what was then the Federation of Ghana Industries, which is now the Association of Ghana Industries.
By 2019, she would have turned 100 years. Esther Oklu completed a Chimoto school and took to hawking. Her marmalade business started with an 8-cent gift from her aunt, who found Esther's poor condition disturbing. From 8 cents, she made profits and started expanding her business till her alma mater heard an Achimota student was hawking marmalade and decided to give her a contract.
The school, the Achimota school, the authorities heard about it. And at that time, secondary schools, were considered as the highest educational level in the country. And for somebody to pass out at Achimota, of all places, to go hawking marmalade was unheard of. So they were, the authorities at Achimota were cited and invited her to hear the story. After hearing her story, they decided that she should go back and learn how to produce the marmalade and then the orange squash. They got in touch with the West African Frontier Force, who were then stationed in the Gold Coast at the Bama camp. And so they also gave a contract.
As early as the 1950s, Esther Oklu brought canning equipment to start West Africa's second biggest canning company at the time.
On coming back, she brought a set of canning equipments, and they were not used. They were just in the crates in the yard, until I visited her and saw the crates and asked her what were in the crates, and she said they were machinery she brought in for canning. At that time, in the whole of Africa, there was only one canning factory that was in Nigeria.
Her landlord refused to allow her operate a cannery in his house. That did not deter her. Rather, she went finding a place, and Medina Zongo Junction was where she got. The place had been earmarked for light industries. After finding the land, Esther Oklu and her fiancé, Robert Oklu, then had to find the money to build the company.
When she was at Osu, she happened to share a wall with the first president of with Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. They shared a wall, so they knew each other. And then in course of that, one day, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah asked her about her factory because he heard that she has moved out. Then she told him that no, not actually. They were looking for a place, but they've got the land and they don't have the money. And so she said, Dr. Nkrumah said, oh, why don't you go to Ghana Commercial Bank for the loan? That's why the bank was established, to help people like herself. She needed a collateral for the money. And her background, from a poor family in the Volta region. So she went back to Dr. Nkrumah again to inform him that that was a problem. And then Dr. Nkrumah agreed to sign the documents for her to get the money.
A collateral system and how difficult it was for women to get loans was key on the agenda at a UN Women's Conference in New York in 1975. Once again, Esther Oklu's contributions earned her a spot as the global chair of the Women's World Banking Global.
Esther Oklu and some women attended a UN conference in 1975 where they were challenged that they should help more women to be liberated financially. And at that time, you know that there was nothing like that in Ghana. There was no bank thinking about women. There was no even much bank in Ghana. I'm sure there were probably few ones I can't tell because I was very young then. But they decided that they wanted to do something, an umbrella that will seek the interest and the well-being of women in the whole world. So they opened Women's World Banking, not Ghana, but Women's World Banking Global, which the headquarters is in the US as we speak. It's in New York as at now. And she was the first chair of Women's World Banking Global.
The first conference, UN conference on women, she said what women needed was collateral. And therefore, Women's World Banking was born to guarantee loans for women. Those were some of the things that influenced her decision and other activities she did besides in Kulenu Industries.
A series of global recognitions, Esther was recognized by Google in 2017 when she would have turned 98. At her company in Medina, which has been taken over by her children, several lines have been added on.
A friend of ours, colleague, the late K. Dom, visited us and suggested that we try and can a palm product, because people at that time were drying the fiber and then taking them abroad and reconstituted them to use, So we accepted the idea, we worked on it, and then we came out with the palm soup base.
The flagship canned palm nuts soup, and now Kenke, Esther Oklu's daughter, wishes the company could have done more. She says her mother will turn in her grave 15 years after her death to find the company has not been moved.
She would have loved to see many more projects, and above all, she would have loved to see this factory at the new site. She spoke about it long before she passed away, and that possibly would make her turn in her grave.
Today, the company has challenges. It has to concentrate on the future. The third generation, only this junior high school pupil, is interested in the business. Who would replace them before this young lady is ready to take over is what the company has to look at now. For a company this big, perhaps government's attention should be drawn to it for a stimulus package and a preservation of history. The NBSSI offers some technical support for various indigenous companies, and so far, that is all the support the company has had.
So, Kulenu, for instance, if we start the project, we're going to be here no less than 6 weeks, where we will find out by ask them kind of questions. And by question, we ask questions under some ethos, like management, like human resources, like quality, inventory, finance, marketing, and let's say quality. So when we are done, we come out to what we call radar chart. And after the radar chart, we know the scores per every department. And where we have problem, we try to improve the activities under that particular department.
In Kulenu Industries, perhaps, will need the support because of this illustrious and industrious industrialists, Esther Oklu, who really pushed the frontiers of Ghana and put the country on the world map.
Anytime she traveled and come back, you see that the little he had, you push it into the business or start something new with it. But then because of, this financial problem, she could not keep all these things in place. And I'm very sure if she were to have support financially, the factory will not be at this stage. It will have grown bigger, wider, higher than as it is now.
So there's more to get on this year's edition of the Ghana Industrial Summit and Expo, which takes off this week. And on that note, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of the Marketplace. Many thanks for joining me. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. We have a good afternoon.